How are you feeling today? Yeah? Thank you so much for coming. Today is an exciting day because it is our first Equity and Inclusion panel. I am Jeanette Rojas. I'm the Equity and Inclusion Program Manager, and I work with Ms. Sharon Bland. She is my boss. And these panels started at Rockville High School when I was an ACES coach there. How many ACES students are there here? All right, thank you for coming. So we started these panels because students wanted to know, okay, what am I going to do with my career? I don't know what to study. And a lot of my students were going to be first-generation college students. And they were just wondering, okay, how come I don't see people that look like me and have had experiences like me? So I looked into my network and I started bringing people that were part of my sorority, people that were part of my professional network, and they started coming in and talking about their professions and their journeys, and it did really well at Rockville High School. So this is our first time doing it here as part of the Office of Equity and Inclusion. So I will be introducing my panelists. First, we have Dr. Sulema. She did her undergrad at University of Maryland, and she also went to the University of Southern California, and she did her doctorate with Kaiser Permanente, and she works with Kaiser Permanente right now. And then we have Dr. Hesse, and he is a Rockville High School alum, and he's also an MC alum. And he went to MC and got 2 associates, and he also got his doctorate at Johns Hopkins University. And then we have Dr. Grant. She went to University of Maryland. She recently got her doctorate. Congratulations. And she is a supervisor for K through 12 with Montgomery County Public Schools. And just to back up, Dr. Hesse works at Georgetown University. He's an executive director there, and he'll be telling you a little bit more about his career in a moment. And I also want to introduce my boss, Ms. Sharon Bland. She will be moderating the panel. She is the Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer for Montgomery College. She has been leading the Office of Equity and Inclusion for 2 years. Her overarching responsibility is to advance the college's mission and goals related to diversity, equity, inclusion, civil and human rights, and social justice by implementing existing programs, policies, and initiatives, as well as developing new ones as appropriate. Ms. Bland has her bachelor's degree in political science and environmental science from University of Massachusetts Amherst, a Master of Public Administration from George Washington University, and her Juris Doctor degree from Georgetown University. She has more than 20 years of project management, and she serves as a speaker on issues involving equity, inclusion, diversity, compliance, public engagement, and public-private partnerships. Ms. Bland also helped create the 50-member committee called the Presidential Advisory Committee on Equity and Inclusion, also known as PACE. So thank you again for coming. And just a little note, people will be stepping out because they have class, and then there will be students coming in because they just finished class. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much again for being here. Thank you, Jeanette, for putting this program together. Thank you for the panelists. What I wanted to just share with you a little bit about the role of the Office of Equity and Inclusion. It was established, as Ms. Rojas mentioned, in 2017 to build a program that addresses 10 critical areas of work. Those include student access, inclusion and equity around the student completion agenda, climate and culture assessment and responsiveness, planning and benchmarking and best practices, staffing, resourcing, succession planning, recruitment and hiring, and promotion and retention of employees. In addition to diversity, equity, and inclusion programming policies, as well as community engagement, collaboration and linkages, and business practices, workforce, and career pathways. So that's a little bit about the role of the office. As you can hear from that, it's quite broad. The reason why it is broad is because it is intended to drive equity and inclusion throughout every policy, practice, engagement that we have at the college. So through panels such as today, we seek to educate and enhance student and employee and community awareness of equity and inclusion, and also create forums that provide education, dialogue, engagement, and celebration for all in our community. This office hosts not only the quarterly dialogue sessions, but also Pizza for Your Thoughts. I think some of you attended that. We had it at the Rockville campus last week, as well as other various forums and events and panels for students. We're hosting an annual equity summit. It will be this year on April 1st, 2020. It will be our second equity summit. And then we also have annual Excellence in Equity Awards. There are 4 student awards that will be given. So hopefully some of you all will consider applying to receive those Excellence in Equity Awards. Comes with a special gift as well. We also are developing our 2020 programs, including a 1MC Book Club of the Year and a 1MC Film of the Year. So I'd love to get your thoughts on what some of those may look like. So again, thank you all for attending. You've heard the bios of our distinguished panelists. So let's just jump right into the questions. Each panelist will have about 10 minutes to respond to each question, and there'll be a question and answer session. Although I realize that some of you have to go early. So if you do have a question that you want to ask, please don't hesitate to raise your hand, and we'll get those questions answered for you. If there are others that you just want to write down and get questions answered later, you can certainly give those questions to Ms. Rojas, and we'll make sure that they get asked and answered. And of course, all of this will be on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and everything else, so you'll be able to see the answers. So, what inspires you? That's what we're talking today. I'd like to ask the panelists, each of them in turn, what is your personal story? And if you wouldn't mind talking to students about where you grew up, the challenges you faced, and what inspires you.
Sure. So, good morning or good afternoon, everybody. What time is it? So it's good morning. So my name is Sulema Hidalgo. I'm actually from the Baltimore area, Baltimore County specifically. I grew up, I was the only girl of 3. I was the only girl of 4 with 3 brothers. And I grew up with Latino parents. I was first generation. My 2 older brothers actually did not go to college, unfortunately, but I was very motivated to attend college. I ended up going to the University of Maryland, where I got my bachelor's in kinesiology. While I was at the University of Maryland, I'll be honest with you, I was very confused about what I wanted to do, I'm not gonna lie. I know I wanted to get into healthcare, but I didn't know what part of healthcare I wanted to pursue. And everybody always talks about how competitive it can be. So I did a lot of reaching out one summer where I asked to observe many different types of fields in a hospital. I think it was Holy Cross specifically that I was emailing a lot of. And fortunately, my mom knew somebody there, so that helped to kind of gauge in and get the foot in the door. And I asked if I could shadow different people, so physicians, nurses, physician assistants, physical therapists, occupational therapy, you name it, I observed them. And I think that I was still really confused. I remember it was after my first year, so I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And then going into my second year of college, I was still undecided. And I ended up going to spend my winter break in my mom's home country of Colombia, and I spent my winter break there, and a lot of my family out there are healthcare providers as well. So I spent a lot of time shadowing them at their job. And it was there, actually, that I was shadowing a physical therapist, and I really liked what they do. And I asked if I could stay with that physical therapist for a couple weeks at a time. And when I came back, I was really motivated, so I applied to a lot of physical therapy clinics and reached out to a lot of physical therapy clinics that were within the University of Maryland region that I could get to, asking if I could just shadow or work as a volunteer. So that's really kind of what sparked my interest into physical therapy specifically. So I knew afterwards that I wanted to apply to PT school. And I took a year off so I could save some money, because as we all know, graduate school, unfortunately, is also very expensive. And I applied, and I got accepted into the University of Southern California, which was my top choice. But USC came with city living, Los Angeles living, and so we know it's really expensive. I was so motivated to apply to every single scholarship that came my way, and I need you all to know that there is so much free money out there. I actually applied to a Dr. Pepper scholarship after I was accepted into USC, when I saw that the bill at USC was going to be $65,000 a year. So I applied to the Dr. Pepper scholarship, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. You submit a 1-minute video to Dr. Pepper talking about why you deserve a chance at $125,000. So I did, and in that week I received a phone call from the CEO of Dr. Pepper saying, hey, we selected your video. You're going to be competing with 4 other people on a football field at the Pac-12 championship in 2 months and compete for $125,000. I thought it was a lie. And so that being said, I practiced for 2 months throwing a football 10 yards. I reached out to the University of Maryland football house, and I asked the coach, hey, I have this opportunity. I'm a Maryland alum. I'm not asking to practice with your first string quarterback or your second string quarterback. I'll take the third string, but I really, really, really need to learn how to throw a ball. And so they took me in, and they were like, you got to be here in rain, shine, everything, because you don't know what conditions are going to come game day. So I competed, and I won. I threw 17 footballs in 30 seconds in the little Dr. Pepper hole. So that being said, I say that to motivate you guys, because really your career is an investment, and I know it can be very expensive, but that was just one scholarship I won. There's a lot of free money out there. You'd be really surprised. And then we're talking about $5,000, $10,000 chunks. You get 2 to 3 of those. That's already a semester, right? So I went to USC, and here I am across, we know West Coast is 3,000 miles away in Los Angeles, and I was really disappointed, I'm not going to lie, on my first week of school when I went into a class of 96 students. So that's the biggest PT program that there is in the nation. So 96 students is a lot in a PT school. And I was really disappointed because I was the only brown girl in class, and I was like, that's interesting. The director of admissions at the University of Southern California for PT is actually Cuban, so I was really, I honestly say I was confused, especially Los Angeles being that it's such a diverse city. So after a couple months trying to adapt to a whole new system, I went to the director of admissions, and I kind of expressed some feelings and said how I felt really left out. I felt like I didn't connect with a lot of my classmates, unfortunately. They were all just so different from me. And so I was really motivated while at USC, and I took the time, and we actually created a multicultural leadership alliance with the medical school and the dental school, where it helped to unite some of the minority students that were pursuing healthcare careers. And so we established that. We ended up coming together, and we created a scholarship specifically for minority incoming students entering healthcare fields at the University of Southern California. And I think that really motivated me to go and speak to minority students, because there really needs to be more of us out there, specifically in healthcare. After I graduated from USC, I did my orthopedic residency at Kaiser Permanente in Anaheim, and then I did my spine fellowship at Kaiser Permanente in West Los Angeles. I was then hired on, and I was waiting for a job to transfer to come back home, and I found it at Kaiser Permanente Capitol Hill. So there I am the spine specialist, and I work 2 days a week in the rehab department and then 2 days a week in the spine department alongside the physicians. And my goal there is to help prevent surgery. And so we try to see if we have candidates there that can maybe benefit from a rehab program and avoid surgery. And so that's our goal there. But, it takes a lot of time. Obviously, my schooling has been forever, and I'm sure all of our schooling has been forever. But I say that to say that, don't be scared of I gotta, pay these student loans back, or I can't pursue all this schooling because it's gonna take so much time and money. Because the reality is that if it's something that you're passionate about, it's worth it. And like I said before, it's an investment. and I'm sure everyone here is going to talk about the scholarship opportunities that there are out there. Don't be shy to pursue them because you'll never know what will come on your lap and to help pay for college.
So that's such a cool story. It's actually also an interesting segue about the director of admissions component that you were reaching out to. So my actual role is I'm the executive director of admissions at Georgetown University for the School of Continuing Studies. And we predominantly cater to working adults, and we have a part-time bachelor's program, Georgetown's only part-time bachelor's program, but usually a lot of different master's programs, certificate programs, and so on. But as mentioned earlier, I was actually an alum of MC, so I was in your seats about 15 or so years ago. And I'll share with you kind of my personal journey of how I ended up being in this chair here today, because a lot of times many people see, you know, suit, tie, oh, executive director of admissions, and it must have been easy for you and so on. So I'll quickly share with you kind of my background of how I got here. So my mother is Salvadorian, my father's Peruvian. I was a first-gen American. You know, by default happened to be born here, and my mother, you know, crossed the border to escape the Civil War in El Salvador. My father came here on an F1 visa, actually to come to Montgomery College, never showed up, began working and, you know, started doing dishwashing stuff, then learned carpentry and so on. So for the last 30 plus years, my mother cleaned houses and babysat, and my father learned to be a carpenter and learned to remodel kitchens, bathrooms, electricity, so on. So I came, and I'm an only child, so I came from a background where parents didn't speak English, low income, immigrant background, and you know, technically my parents weren't documented at the time of my birth. So I still remember growing up, going to kindergarten, and I still remember the first day of class, the teacher looked down and kind of was taking roll call, I guess, and said, Erwin, and I said, see? And then she was like, she said something to me, probably like, do you understand what I'm saying? What's your name? So, and I was like, ¿Qué cosa? No sé, no. And then I was in ESOL the next day. And it's interesting how as a kid, when you're like 5 years old, you don't realize what ESOL is because they called it the choo-choo train. So what that meant was there would be a group of students holding hands down the hallway to pick you up on the choo-choo train to go into the big choo-choo train station, which was the classroom where you learned ESOL. So every day the students came holding hands. I was like, oh, choo-choo train's here. And myself and like 2 or 3 other kids would come, hold the line, go down to the class, and we were learning English the whole time. I had no idea, right? I was just a kid. I was like, all right, doesn't everyone do this? Like, isn't everyone going to the choo-choo train? So by 2nd grade, I was actually, you know, fully efficient in being bilingual. I was helping some of the teachers actually teach the other students certain like slang and stuff like that in Spanish. And I got an award in 2nd grade for doing all that. And I had no idea, again, like how naive I was to think like I thought everyone did that. So fast forward to 5th grade. So I was on a pretty promising track, right? Starting in 5th grade and on, that's when I really started to get into a lot of trouble. So I would start to do certain things that caught the eye of the principal as a 10-year-old in 5th grade. And I remember that the principal pulled myself and like 6 other students and told us, if you guys continue on what you're doing, you're not going to graduate high school, you're probably going to be in jail, or you're probably going to be dead. The principal told me this when I was like 10. I had no idea, again, how severe or why it was so drastic to do that, but it kind of resonated with me and it stuck with me. The principal was right though. So from middle school and on, that's when I really started to get into a lot of trouble. So a lot of my friends and I, we would just make stupid decisions, right? And we had run-ins with the law. By age 13, I was on probation. I had to go urinate in a cup down here in Rockville every week or so just to make sure I wasn't on drugs or anything. I had to go to anger management classes. And by 15, when I was about a sophomore or so at Rockville High School, I see a lot of Rockville high school students here, I actually wasn't allowed to even come to school the whole day. So the principal at Rockville High School at that time banned me from even eating lunch at school. And I was suspended over 20 times, recommended for expulsion. I barely graduated high school with a 1.3 GPA. And I had to take night school, Saturday school, and summer school classes to make up for all the credits that I didn't earn 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, just to graduate on time in 12th grade. I don't even know if you could do night school or Saturday school or summer school in high school anymore. You can? Okay. So and I don't even know if you could graduate with a 1.3 anymore. I think it's a 2.0, right? Like, so I got lucky. So I got my diploma, but I share that with you, and I'm also giving you kind of the PG-13 version. I'm not even giving you all the other stuff we did, because we don't need to go into that. But I share this with you because this is who I am every day, no matter where I show up, right? And what I ended up getting lucky, because I stumbled upon MC. I had no idea what I was doing. Actually, the story of how I got to MC is pretty straightforward. I was on my way to go play basketball with two of my friends, and I told one of them, "Hey, stop by this school over here. I want to see how to go to school here." And they're like, "Shut the hell! You're not going to school. What do you mean? You're not going to college?" And I told them, "Drop me off. Drop me off here. You guys go play. I'm gonna go walk around." They dropped me off. They never picked me back up, but they dropped me off. And I walked around this campus as like an 18-year-old, fresh out of high school. I had no idea what I was doing. Walked around the campus, stumbled upon this building. I think it's still the building right across over here, where it was like admissions and administration, and talked to an advisor, and then they sent me to another building and to go talk to someone and I said, how do I go to school here? What do I do? And they said, well, you paid $25. I don't know if it's still $25 or not, but back then it was like, you paid, no, I see a lot of heads, no, it's not 20. So it was like, you paid $25, you show proof that you have a diploma or something, and you sign up to do like this accu-placement test or an assessment test. And I was like, that's it? Then I'm a college student? And I was like, yeah, that's it. I was like, hey, Mom, I'm in college. Like, I did it. Look, I did it. I have the paper, I have my ID, all that. Had no idea what I was doing. Again, no idea. And you know, I went to go do the assessment test. I had to do remedial math, but I was okay, fortunately enough, with English and reading, where I just started off at the college level, which was interesting because I never took my SATs. I barely graduated high school. But that kind of showed me there was still some potential there, right? There was just some potential that I wasn't tapping into. I was just doing stupid things, making stupid decisions. So I started coming to class here. I wanted to do criminology and criminal justice. That was my major here at Montgomery College. I did criminal justice. And the reason why I did criminal justice was because I wanted to learn more about the law, so if they ever interact with me again, I know how to defend myself. So I went to college for the wrong reasons. I studied things for the wrong reasons, but fortunately I ended up really finding a passion for that career, and I ended up enjoying what I learned during that time, and then I ended up wanting to go to law school for that. But one quick story, my last class that I took here, we had to go visit a local jail, and when we went to the class, you know, we had our notebooks, pen and paper, so on, and there was a group of inmates that agreed to come out and talk to us to tell us their experiences of what it's like to be in jail and so on. And when they came out, two of my friends came out from high school, and I knew why they were there, because I was supposed to be with them that night that they did what they did. And then I saw another friend too that I knew from middle school. And I just thought at that moment, how crazy is it that I'm sitting here on this side with a notebook, pen and paper, classmates at college, and I'm studying my friends and how they got there, and writing notes about prison life and you know, what they're going through and stuff. And it was such a crazy moment in my life where I knew at that moment on, I was like, I could have been right there with them, sharing this story with these students, and go right back to my cell. And so I vowed never to look back. I vowed to prioritize my education, because when I was here, I was off to a rocky start too, and I was never really like a 4.0 straight A student. But I vowed to myself, I need to do better. I'm gonna try to make the dean's list. I'm gonna transfer to Maryland. I'm gonna do these things. I really wanna value my education, because this is an opportunity that was not granted or given to me. I had to really earn it. And so I did that. I ended up transferring to the University of Maryland, got a full ride scholarship, and there is a lot of money out there, guys. I'll let you know that right now. There's a lot of money out there. You just gotta find it. It's on websites, school services, at the institutions that you're transferring to. Sometimes if you talk to financial aid officers there, they know about institutional aid grants that you can be granted as well. That's not publicly facing on websites. So there's a lot of money out there. And then I transferred to Maryland and graduated with my bachelor's in criminology in 2010. And I didn't pay a single dollar for school. And when I was here at MC, I didn't know anything about FAFSA or anything about that until my second semester, when my girlfriend, who's not my wife, told me about it. She was like, you know, there's FAFSA, there's this thing called FAFSA. I was like, what's FAFSA? And then she explained to me that you could get certain grants that you don't pay back because they're not loans if you qualify for Pell Grants. And back then it was like $5,200, which covered pretty much my time at MC. So I earned a bachelor's degree from a top 50 public university with $0 from a low-income immigrant family household, barely speaking any English to this day. And you know, I ended up finishing that, going to get my master's in public administration, and then I earned a doctorate at Johns Hopkins in education last year. So I also thank you. I vowed to work in admissions. So this is what I do. This is my profession now. So I'll go to my professional life. I work in admissions. I've been working in admissions now for almost 10 years. And I started off at the University of Maryland's undergraduate admissions office, where I don't know if any of you want to transfer into business or engineering or biological sciences, but at Maryland, those are called limited enrollment programs. I was the limited enrollment program coordinator. So I decided who got into those, who didn't, so on. Then I, in 2015, started to work at Johns Hopkins at the business school, where I was also earning my doctorate at the School of Education. So I understood the graduate business school world and went out to go recruit students and so on for business. And then as of last year, I began working at Georgetown at the School of Continuing Studies, again, where I go out and recruit students, traditionally working adults, but also we have, like I mentioned, a part-time bachelor's program for those that want to transfer directly from Montgomery College. We also have a 50% scholarship for a student from MC every year. And you know, it's interesting because in my job currently, I get to travel around the world. I just got back from London, Tokyo, Qatar, Oman in the Middle East. I actually did a recruitment trip to El Salvador as well. So I get to travel all around the world, all around the US, and recruit students to come to Georgetown. And I just think how crazy it is. I would have never seen any of those places. I would have never been right in front of Westminster Abbey in London and seen the great cathedral. I would have never been able to experience any of that stuff if I would have never changed my life to go on the right path. And now I get to recruit students to come to an elite university of Georgetown coming from my background. The irony in that, right? And so I find so much joy in what I do every day because I truly had to work for it. I truly had to focus, change my life, and make sure that I go on the right path to do the right thing because many of my friends didn't. A lot of my friends died. A lot of my friends were killed. Some of my friends ended up in jail. I don't keep up with some of my friends anymore. I used to have a Facebook page for about a week, maybe about 7 years ago or so. A lot of my friends from back in the day started reaching out, and I was like, you know what, I don't need this. I don't need this. So I don't have Facebook page. I don't have Instagram, Snapchat. I only have a LinkedIn. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, let's connect, or Twitter. I'm pretty boring though, so you might not want to follow me. So that's kind of my journey, right? So there's so many hidden identities that we carry with ourselves that all of you have too, right? All these experiences that you go through, that you carry with yourself in your personal life, in your professional life. There's also a lot of times where, and I know we'll go more into this a little bit later, where when you go to work, you show up as a different person than who you are at home. And especially students of color, people of color go through that at higher rates than others because there's a lot of literature on this called code switching, where you show up one way and then you have to be someone else because you have to tame yourself to make sure that you kind of fit in and assimilate to the culture that you're working in and so on. So there's a lot of different things that people go through with hidden identities that other people don't know about. So I just wanted to share that background with me and let you know I'm a proud MC alum. I love Montgomery College because it gave me that second chance that no other school would have given me, and that's why I'm here today. So thank you.
I should have gone before you because that's a hard story to follow. So all of us really have different stories and different pathways that got us to this place here today in front of you. My name is Cara Grant, and my family, my dad was in the military, and he didn't, there weren't teaching jobs when he graduated from college, so he went into the military to provide for us as a family with my sister. And then we moved to California, and then we moved here to Maryland. I grew up in Wheaton, Silver Spring area. Moved here in early 80s. And so my parents both taught in private school, which is basically the very bottom of middle income. So when you talk about scholarships and FAFSA, my parents made like this much too much for me to get anything. And at the age of 14, my dad told me I had to pay for college. And so then I was like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to go to college if they said I had to pay for it. So, started working when I was 14, part-time, as well as doing varsity sports and clubs and activities and SGA. I went to Einstein High School for 2 years, made some really bad choices, and then my parents pulled me out, and I still don't know how to this day they were able to afford sending me to good counsel, because by that time my mom wasn't working. I was in a single income household with my dad working as a public school teacher. So he went to work at Montgomery County Public Schools. So a single income public school teacher, paying for good counsel, for me, so my parents really sacrificed a lot for us, and so as with that, I knew education was a priority, and it really is a key that unlocks a lot of doors for you, so it gives you more choices. So with being from a single parent household, single income parent household, both my parents were actively involved in my life, different styles. My dad was always working. He always had 2 or 3 jobs. He was military reserves. He was teaching. He was going to school at Maryland for graduate school. It was hectic, but then I realized that kind of shaped who I am. I always have multiple jobs. I'm a mother of 4 boys. I'm married. I teach graduate classes at University of Maryland for PE majors because we need more teachers. And I want to give back in that way. All of what I do is based on stuff that I like. I hated school. I skipped class so much that the class I skipped into, the basketball specialty class, the teacher thought I was in the class. So I was a very polite child, too. That also helped, especially if I wanted to play basketball. So I learned how to navigate those things. Like, I wouldn't skip when there was a quiz or a test. I knew how to time manage and prioritize, right, in high school, but I made really bad choices. So that's also why I wanted to be in an education career, because I wanted to make it better than what I had. Like, it was boring. It sucked. I hated it. I didn't know why I had to take these classes if that's not what I was going to do with my life, Like, I knew by high school that I wanted to be a teacher, and then after taking all the high school classes, I knew that there was only one content area that I liked a lot. I liked biological sciences, but I hated chemistry. So physical education, it's a science degree. So I also went to Maryland and studied kinesiology, and for the first 10 years of my career, I was a physical education teacher at Loiterman Middle School, White Oak Middle School, Argyle Middle School. I stayed in Silver Spring. Then I went to work in central office, writing curriculum, doing some teacher training, because I felt like I could have a greater impact on the whole school system, on more students than the 250 that I taught each year. So it really wanted to give back so that students saw themselves in school, had a positive academic identity, where, coming to school wasn't, I gotta go to school. Like, I hate this place. People treat me poorly, or they don't like me. I wanted to make sure that students had a sense of belonging, that the curriculum and the teaching, the professional development all fostered and worked towards creating positive relationships, a sense of belonging, fostering good mental health practices, coping strategies, getting kids connected, so that, like the ACES program, where they could be equipped with mentors and people that they can go to when they're having a hard time. Really being able to find more adults to foster that trusted adult in the building. So if a student's like, I'm getting picked on in the hallway, I know I can go see Dr. Hidalgo because she'll take care of me and she'll help me work through my problem. Because a lot of the work that I'm privileged to work on now in the school system, one of our initiatives is Be Well 365, and it really emphasizes serving the whole child, not just the academic needs. Because when we come to school, we're bringing every piece of baggage that we have. You just can't come to school and learn. You have to learn to compartmentalize, that you've got bills, that the school just called about your kids, or your car is broken down, or you got stuck in traffic, or, you know, like something just broke in your house, you're not sure how you're going to pay your rent or whatever. You have to carry all of that, or you just got kicked out of your house, you're homeless, somebody was being beaten in your home at night, your parents are going to divorce, your pet just died, whatever it is. Like, we have to like compartmentalize all the stuff that's happening in our lives to be able to serve others, and that's hard. So what really drew me to it was just that I wanted to build a connection with students so that they felt there was someone like that cared about them and that could help grow whatever their passion and their desire is to give back to our community. You know, growing up in Wheaton, my parents really just kept us actively involved in sports and athletics. We were never home, but like by the time I got to high school, I found other activities that weren't ones you put on your college resume to participate in. And that created challenges because you have to navigate, well, I grew up with the people in my neighborhood, but the people in my neighborhood aren't getting the same encouragement to have a positive career pathway. What do I need to do to like distinguish, well, I really need to make smarter choices about who my friends are, who's going to align to my career goals, who's going to build me up and not break me down. Because a lot of times you have friends that will pull you down because they just want you to be with them, but they don't realize that they're not trying to lift you up in your journey. So you have to really make sure that you're aligning yourself with like-minded individuals. Everybody's going to have their struggle, but just knowing that there are other women or people of color that are empowering you and seeing you through your struggles is the biggest part that helped me. Part of that, one of the things that's unique about me compared to our panelists, I'm not Latino, I'm actually mixed black and white. So that just brings like a whole nother layer of identity issues that can come about with not being a clear black or white or Latino person. And so the challenges I had through that growing up were insurmountable. However, when I started at college, a friend of mine invited me to go to this meeting, and I heard about this sorority, Lambda Theta Alpha Latin Sorority Incorporated. And College Park, University of Maryland, is a huge campus. And to have a sense of belonging and identity in a large place is hard. And so when I went to this meeting with this friend of mine, who she really wanted to go to the meeting, I was like, oh, these people are really nice. They're not asking me who I am, what are you, what are you doing here? But they embraced me for who I am. They were doing community service. They were focused on grades. They identified that they too had struggles and they were trying to work through them. Like, nobody's perfect. And I was like, I really like this group. So I decided to join that group, and that's actually how I met Jeanette, who fostered this forum today. And that group continues to be my village. Like, as a mom, going through weddings, looking for job searches, checking me when I'm being inappropriate, you know, and like making sure that I'm a good person and giving back to the community in appropriate ways. So one is like my colleagues here on the panel, having truly a passion for what you do. Identify your why. Why are you in the major that you're in? And it has to be a real why. It has to be strip yourself away of everything, money, whatever. If intrinsically you don't have a good why for the job or the career path you're getting, it's not going to take you through the days where your job's really going to suck. And you're going to get beaten down by a lot of demands and not enough time, and the paycheck's not going to be that great in the end. So you got to find your why. Establish your positive group and cohort, like your 2 or 3 buddies that are going to keep you empowered and uplifted, and then just have a sense of resiliency. Every single person is going to face a challenge. It's how you overcome and get back up from those challenges that push you down that's going to make you a successful person. And your success is only how you quantify it. Don't compare yourself to others. This is your journey, your success. I can't compare myself to either of these people. They're all amazing, but we all have something amazing within us that we strive to become or that we already are. So find your passion and then just what inspires me is inspiring others and helping others find their why and get them moving to their career pathway to give back to the community. So thank you.
Well, wow, how impressive is that? I thank you all so much for sharing all of that. I do have a couple of other questions, but I saw some heads shaking and nodding going on. I'd like to ask the students that are in the room now if you have any questions, or others in the room that may not be students. So you started, Dr. Grant, talking about some advice that you have for students. I'd like to ask the other panelists to share with us some advice you may have for students that are either trying to decide what career to pursue, or even how to find a job that's satisfying. All three of one of the things that I loved about hearing about all three of you is that you found careers that you truly enjoy. And, I echo your comment around that because I love what I do every day, and I feel so fortunate to work in a space where I get to bring all of the education that I've had to bear on this work. So with that in mind, let's go.
So I definitely echo your comments because the number one thing I look for is passion, right? I have to wake up every day and be passionate about what I'm doing. If I'm not, it's time to pick a new career, it's time to get a new job, or I truly don't feel like I work. I work, in case my boss watches, I'm working. But I don't feel like it's work. And I think it was Confucius or someone who said, like, if you find something that you're passionate about, you'll feel like you never work a day in your life. Because I get up every day, I talk to students, I lead a team of 17 people that go out and recruit different students as well. We talk about recruitment strategies, counseling strategies, how to broach one another, how to go through difficult conversations for those that are curious about, well, can I actually manage to do a program at work full-time, so on. I love having those conversations with students because that was me. That's what I went through. And I would have loved to have more one-on-one guidance with some people, either at the campus or in my family or friends, who would have given me those conversations to potentially guide me to a path even different than where I'm at now. I'm very happy where I'm at now, but I wonder where my life would have been if I had those conversations earlier on in my life. So I enjoy truly what I do, and I think the number one thing truly is your why, and you have to be passionate about it, because if not, that paycheck isn't going to be so great after a week, a month, or year. You're not going to be happy. And all of you probably know someone, maybe if not yourself, who is not happy at their job, right? Who is doing something every day. They come home, they're not excited, they feel like it's a burden. And everyone has tough days at work, but as long as you're passionate about what you do, it'll help you get through those tough days.
I think the main thing is that you all have to think about if you're lost and deciding well, what should I do? You're gonna be working for a long time, right? Retirement is until 65, right? So you're talking about maybe 30 to 40 years that you have to find something that you love to do. And I really, really encourage you all to take the time, and if it means spending long hours right now to shadow somebody, volunteer somewhere in different avenues, whether it's business, whether it's healthcare, whether it's the sciences, you'd be surprised if you just ask somebody hey, can I hang out with you for a couple hours, a couple days a week and everything? You'd be surprised at how many people will say yes. People don't mind the whole observation, And yeah, it takes time out of your day, out of your weekend maybe. You're not getting paid for this. I get it. It can be frustrating. But you're investing into your life, right? Because it's better that you find something now that you really love to do than to be miserable down the line and then realize that's not what you want to do for the rest of your life, because you're going to be spending a long time doing this. So it's better to put in the time now. And I really, really highly recommend trying to talk to people, trying to really ask people, going outside of your comfort zone maybe, and talking and seeing if you can just take a look at different careers that are out there. Find a mentor, right? Take the time to talk to somebody to see, and ask questions. Don't be shy to ask the questions. And I think that that's the best advice I can give in regards of how to figure out what you want to do. You're gonna need to put the time in now to figure that out.
So I'd like to ask students in here, how many of you in this room know what you want to do? All right. About a third of the group kind of pretty much knows what they want to do. And then how many are still trying to figure it out? Yeah. So for the people that are trying to figure it out, what have you thought about or considered any of the steps that the panelists have mentioned? And is there anything that we can answer for you in terms of how to go about doing that? Yes. I think we have to use the mics, right? Is that what I heard? Thank you. Okay. Say your name, please.
Okay, my name is Hanan. I do know what I want to do, and back to what you were saying about how you went out your way and like ask people like, can I hang out with you and stuff like that. I feel like I will be applying that to my because I want to go into healthcare as well, and I feel like looking out for mentors and stuff like that would be like a very good way to get my like foot in the door and just see if that's really what I want to do. So I really I'm going to apply that to my life. So thank you.
Don't hesitate to ask questions, you know. I've had so many young patients that I get, like in their teens and their high school, and they're like, can I email you? I got some questions. Like, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. And I might not email back right away, but I email back. So that's what I'm saying, like, don't hesitate to ask, because you'd be really surprised how open people are to that.
And I have all of their emails, so if you want to reach out to them, I have that. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Nicole. And so I have actually went to one of the ACES meetings before where I believe you, the young man, sir, you have like a talk there, and your story really inspired me. But because I feel like sometimes I can't, that I'm not good enough, right? I'm not smart enough, and I'm trying to go to the medical field, and now like with the classes that I'm taking, I feel like it's like eating me up inside. Mm-hmm. So I want to know, like, what advice have you guys done to like overcome that?
Ooh. I'll tell you right now, that is gonna carry with you your whole life. I always thought when I get this promotion, I'll be it. I know I made it. All this stuff. Those insecurities, that's the doubt that sometimes can be raised, and you can be confident, right? But everyone, I believe from my personal experience, everyone still has self-doubt, right? You always wonder, am I good enough? Do I belong here? I don't see other people that look like me. What is this? How is it? That's going to carry with you your whole life, and I'm learning that as I go along in my career too. I work the last 3 institutions that I worked at. Maryland, Hopkins, and Georgetown, predominantly white institutions, and there's times where I'm the only Latino in the room of decision makers, and I see that too, and those types of things make me wonder, who else is in here? Why am I the only one here? Am I good enough to be here? I wonder what they're thinking about me. So that's going to be with you your whole life. The only advice I can give you is to continue to push forward, because growing up, I didn't see people that looked like me as president, as movie actors, or diplomat. Nothing. Sonia Sotomayor, for me growing up, even in my adult years, was the only prominent Latina figure that I saw in the U.S. government. Otherwise, it was like every now and then. I know AOC is a big deal now in the Latin community, but like growing up, I didn't see that, and so I think that type of stuff carries on to you as well, and it can weigh you down. But my best advice: keep pushing forward. Keep pushing forward, because I never would have thought I would have earned a doctorate from Johns Hopkins. Like, who, me? No, not me. But I did, right? And there was times where I was doubting. I'm like, I can't finish this program. Oh my God, this is eating me up, and so on. But I kept pushing forward. And I will say too, you gotta find some people that'll help you push you forward too, because there's times where you cannot do it on your own. There's times where you really need someone else that's in the struggle with you saying, I'm through it, I'm going through it too, let's go out, let's have lunch, let's talk about this. Because if you keep that all inside, it's probably gonna eat you up. But if you find mentors, if you find friends that are gonna help push you in the right direction, you will get through it.
Okay, that's a great point. I think one of the things that's most impactful about what you just said was your friend circle. I know that sometimes when you have the same circle of friends that you don't want to lose your friends. But I have found, even as being in a career for a long time, that I search for new and different friend circles. Because there are people that are doing things way beyond me that I'm like, how did they get there? Or how are they doing that? And I want to be their friend because I want to learn to be in their circle too. So I think, growing up is every day. You're never fully grown up, I don't think, because I'm still looking for the next friend circle or the next thing I want to do or what have you. But
Yeah, so the type of person I am, I'm extremely task-oriented, and when I heard your question, I automatically thought of the strategies that I employed when I was in college. And one of the things is, just because people say a degree is 4 years or maybe 5 doesn't mean that that's your goal. You quantify and set your own goals. I knew I was going to have to pay for college. After my first few semesters, I knew taking more than 12 or 13 credits a semester and working almost full-time to pay for my housing and my tuition wasn't feasible for me to maintain my sanity and then go to the club a couple nights a week, So because it's about your work-life balance. You have to give self-care, you have to have relationships, you have to be a person, and you also have to work, there has to be a balance. So some of the things that I did is I finished in 6 years. There's nothing wrong with that. I got my degree. I ended up with the 3.0, but nobody looks at your GPA when you finish. You look at your degree. So set your own race, set your own pace. My master's degree, I said I wanted to get my master's degree before I had my first child. I walked 3 months pregnant, so, you set your own race, and that took 4 years just for my master's degree. My doctorate took 7 years, so, and some people are like, wow, it took me 10. I'm like, oh, I thought I was bad with 7, so set your own race, don't compare yourself to others. When I was at Maryland, there were pre-med classes, biomechanics, exercise physiology. I came and took math at MC because I wanted a class that was set up in a friendly environment, and the classes at Montgomery College are so much more accessible than some of the bigger universities. But one of the strategies I employed is if people told me it was going to be a hard class that really just puts you in your place, I would take the summer session, and that's the only class I would take. So there were certain classes that were notorious for you just barely getting by, and so I just would purposely schedule my biomechanics, my exercise physiology in a summer session. And so that was one of my strategies. And then just like I said, you have to take time to celebrate your success. When you finish your midterms, it doesn't matter what you got on your midterms, you need to take time, whether it's Netflix and chill for a night or giving yourself a full 7 to 8 hours of sleep, right? You have to take time to celebrate each success, whatever that is. Treating yourself to a latte instead of just brewing it at home. You have to take time to celebrate yourself, set your goals, set your short-term goals, finish the semester to get to the good degree, right? And then track it. If you don't have a plan, without a failure is planning to fail. So if you don't have a goal for yourself and how to backstep to get there, then you're not going to get there. It's just like being on a treadmill and not setting a time of how long you're going to run for. So set your goals of, when are you thinking about your degree being finished based on your work, and it's okay to come back and say, you know what? I have to work more hours because of my family or how I'm supporting my mom and dad. That's fine. Just pace yourself, don't make yourself mad, and just stay the course.
I think, I know this is probably different, but I'm just saying something that worked for me when I took all these science classes. At the University of Maryland, I took organic chemistry, and it was awful, right? And I started off with like a C, and I know it's like super stressful because now I'm like, oh my gosh, am I even going to be able to get into healthcare? Like I can't even do well in these science classes. And I will say that I'm really, really thankful. I remember to this day, I'm very, very thankful for my Organic 1 chemistry teacher because I took the time, and once again, like I asked questions, and I went to office hours, and she stayed with me one time till 9 o'clock at night to make sure. She was like, we're going to make sure you get this because this is on the test. And I was like, I don't understand, like I cannot get it. And she stayed with me. She stayed with me until 9 o'clock at night on a weeknight to work with me, and I ended up getting an A- in organic chemistry. So it's like, you know, these classes, you feel like you get defeated and you feel like they're so hard, and you can't help but look at everybody else's grade around you, and you're like, why is it that I can't get it, and why do they get it? But go to office hours, go and talk to your professors, make a study group, right? Talk to the people that are getting the A's and like ask, hey, can I study with you? Because I did that too in physics. And I was like, you know, can you mind if I like join your study group? And it really, really helps. You know, in the office hours, like I know it's so cliche and people are like so intimidated to go to office hours, especially if you're in a lecture hall of 150 students and you're like, no way am I gonna get the time that I need. You will if you go. You'd be surprised at how much the professors appreciate that and will spend the time with you because that's what they're there to do. Like they really care more than you think if they know that you care too.
And I also just want to say, be okay with accepting if it doesn't work out. Mm-hmm. My whole goal was to go to law school. I took the LSATs. I was like, I ain't going to law school. So, and then I thought, okay, what's plan B and C? Okay, now plan B and C are now plan A and B. And you learn to accept certain failures because you're not going to be successful at everything. That's not real life. So learn to accept it if it does happen, but always learn to move forward with a new plan because life will work itself out. There were so many students when I would work at the University of Maryland that would come in, applied as freshmen, didn't get in, and they would be devastated. I mean, they felt their world was over. Their parents would come in. The parents sometimes would cry more than the students. And I'm like, this is not a good example for your kid. And, you know, I would tell them, you could still come here. You can still come here and graduate. Who cares if you're coming in through the back door or side door? You're walking out the front. And so that was my path. And I always share with them. I started at MC. I still went to Maryland. No one cares about your GPA. No one cares how you got it. It's just, oh, did you graduate? Where'd you go? Oh, Maryland. Oh, cool. What'd you major in? And that's it.
Yeah.
And so life will work itself out, even if it doesn't work out at the moments that you really want it to.
Hello? Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Marlene Morales. It's really nice to finally meet a Latina first-generation doctorate of physical therapy. I myself want to apply to physical therapy school next year, so although this question is mainly for you, this also applies to all the other doctors. So what is one thing you wish your friends or family members or other people would have told you before going into PT school or any doctorate school?
That's tough.
My husband said, I thought you said it was only 3 years. So that's not true. Whatever they say in admissions, like unless you're gonna like not have a life, not have a family, not get sleep, it's gonna expect it for me to take longer than they say it will.
I wish somebody would have told me like more about like honestly like balancing. And I went to like a whole new city, so I was like so overwhelmed. I wish maybe people would have talked to me about like, you know, it's okay to like take a day off of studying. Or I wish that they would have said, I mean, gosh, it's so true when they say GPAs don't matter. Like I was like, I gotta get straight A's, you know, like I gotta do it, and like it doesn't matter. Like once you graduate and you get your doctorate, like that's it. Like you have your job now, you know. So they're not like when you apply for a job, they're not like, let me see your transcript. And I felt like I was so anal, and I wish maybe some people would have told me like it's okay, chill. I kind of wish my parents would have been like, it's okay if you get a B, but that didn't happen. And so I wish that I would have had a little bit more like. You know, people just to tell me like, oh, it's cool if you need to take a day off, or like if you need me, call me type of thing. If you need like to vent, call me. And I wish I would have had a little bit more of that because I felt like it was a lot of pressure going in, and I really, really stressed myself out my first semester, and yeah, like I said, like I wish I had people like, and then that's when I went to like the dean of admissions, and he was like, you know, it's okay if like you get B's, right? It's even okay if you get a C. Like we're not gonna kick you out the program. Like you're already in the program and you're paying, so it's like you know, it's fine. Like don't overdo it. And I think I did my first semester. And so I wish maybe more people would have told me in the beginning, like, you know, to take time to yourself, to really know about, like, they say work-life balance, but like school-life balance, you know, because I didn't know that when going in.
So I wish I didn't get caught up in the competitiveness of the people around me. So at Hopkins, it's a very, it was just very competitive, the environment that I was in. There was a lot of great, talented students. And again, like we say, we shouldn't compare ourselves to others. But there's times where you just do by default, right? You wonder if you're good enough. You wonder why they're doing this and you're not, and should you be doing this? And I wish I didn't get caught up in that. But because of that, though, I ended up doing things I never thought I would do. For example, I presented at 3 national conferences. I published an academic paper in a journal. Those are things I never intended to do. I just wanted to earn my degree and move on. But I wish I didn't get caught up in that. I'm glad I did, though, because it pushed me to do things I never thought I would do. But I also have a wife. I have 3 kids. They're all under 6 years old, all boys. And a lot of times I would do like things and try to type up these papers and try to submit to this conference. And I would see that the work-life balance was hurting, right? I would see that at home, I wasn't putting enough time as a husband, as a father, and I was valuing other things that were like artificial, right? They didn't really matter to me because I wasn't going to go into academia. I wasn't going to be a faculty member, so I didn't need to publish a paper in a journal or present at conferences. But I got caught up in that competitiveness, and so I would just say, go, as we were mentioning before, go at your own pace. Not everyone's going to publish journals. Not everyone's going to present at conferences. Not everyone's going to graduate summa cum laude. Not everyone's going to have the 4.0. It's okay. As long as you finish and continue and get your degree, that's really the important thing that matters.
And like, if you compare yourself to everybody like in the class, like he was saying, like you want to be competitive and you're comparing yourself. If you guys are all in the class, clearly you guys are all good, right? Everyone's smart. Everyone that's here is smart. So it's already been established because you've been accepted that you are smart. So, okay, now there's different levels and like people have different habits. So it's like you really, like he's saying, you just can't compare yourself because now you've already done what you got to do to get there and all of you guys are there. So everyone's clearly on the same level. Now at that point, it's just like, you know, what are your study habits like and how well can you retain information? How well can you internalize it? And everyone's different in that sense. So just think about it that way too.
Anyone else? Okay.
So, hi, my name is Gian Garcia. I, like everyone else here, studies here. My question is more philosophical, and I think it could apply to all 3 of you. I really haven't been hearing much of it, but when you guys are in the face of adversity, or maybe like you feel like all the odds are stacked against you, what is like one aspect throughout most of your life that you've kept with you and that you think back to when like the going gets tough? Like I guess maybe sometimes when I would like work in this temporary job that I had, I really didn't like it, like Erwin elaborated on earlier. But there was like that one thing that I always thought about in the back of my head that made me think like, oh, I have to keep going no matter what. What's that one thing that really drives you guys to keep going?
For me, that's pretty easy. It's God, spirituality, having a faith-based center. I know that's sometimes controversial, but wellness is physical, it's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual. So having a well-rounded well-being and taking care of self. When it's adversity, I just always go back to how I was raised, going back to my faith. And then just that drives me because I don't believe that anything that's set in front of me wasn't set there without a purpose. And so instead of thinking from a victim mentality, then that has shaped me from thinking of how am I going to get through this? Not, oh, what's happening to me? Why is this happening to me? It's like, oh, this is the problem. What am I going to do to get through it? Because I know I'm going to get through it. Otherwise, God wouldn't have put that in front of me. And so that's really what's gone for me. And then lately, I just have a mantra that I stick with because, you know, I'm a mom, I work a lot, I do a lot of different things. I help coach my kids' sports. I have 4 sons, you know, like it's a lot of fun stuff. But I just have to be present in the moment. So in this moment here, I'm not thinking about the work that I left on my desk, the evening that I have planned, what am I supposed to do tomorrow, all the laundry that has to be done, what are we going to talk about cooking for dinner? Like, you know, I'm not thinking about all that stuff. I'm thinking about how cool these students are taking advantage of this opportunity and what can I share of myself. So like just being present in the moment and sharing in my faith base growing up have really helped me through adversity.
For me, I would say now it's my kids that push me, right? Like, I want to give them the life that I didn't have growing up with certain things, right? I grew up in a small apartment complex. They're growing up in a single-family house. There's just differences that I see within one generation because of education, that they're growing up, they have like 100 toys and they fight over the same toy. And I'm like, you guys don't even know how many toys you have. So it's like they motivate me to keep pushing, right? I also want to make sure that they don't grow up spoiled and privileged and think, oh, this was easy either. I want them to learn to earn it. But before kids, I think what motivated me would be the same reason I think motivated you to come here today. You want a better life for yourself. You want to figure out what you can do to move up in this competitive world of the United States, right? I mean, everything that you see here now with Instagram, social media, I know we haven't really touched on this stuff, but you see a lot of people doing so many things that are just not realistic that are your age, right? You see them going on trips to the Bahamas, whatever. You see them doing all this and that, and you're like, how do you do that at 18, 20 years old? And I'm over here, like, you know, trying to go to school, study, and save up some money. And so I think that's a whole new aspect that I didn't grow up with when I was in middle school or high school. There was no Facebook, none of that. But what motivated me, though, was the thought of that. The thought of being able to do that one day, the thought of being able to go out and take a trip somewhere, or go see the world, or, you know, have a better house, car, all that stuff. That motivated me internally. So that intrinsic reward that I would get, going through every night, staying up, trying to study, turning in papers, waking up, going to work, coming to class, all that I knew was going to pay off at one day. I knew it was going to pay off one day. So that was my reward, to one day have the things I never had growing up, so that I could better provide for myself and my family.
It's hard now coming after Cara and Erwin. So the best thing I can say is that, you know, you've already made it this far. So, okay, you have a time where, like, it's a tough time. You've been through tough times before. Maybe you've been through worse times in the past and you've gotten through them. So everything, I always say, happens for a reason. I know it's so cliche, but it's true, right? And, like, you want to be better, and things aren't going to be easy when you want to get to where you want to get, and you want to be the best in your field or in your career, and you want to rise to the top. So sometimes I I'm like, I've had some good couple months. There's gonna be something bad coming, and I like mentally know, like, okay, like something bad's gonna come, but when it does come, you know, I've had some, you know, real tough days with some patients. But I know, like, all right, but for maybe this one point of adversity, there's been 10 amazing times that have come. So adversity is gonna hit you, but you gotta just push through that. And you gotta also think, like, how far you've come and say, like, okay, I'm gonna keep pushing. You wanna keep being great. Don't let nothing stop you from being great. Don't let it slow you down. Okay, it's a bump in the road, but you're gonna keep driving, right? And when I have those hard times, or, like, you know, yeah, we've all had jobs that we hate, but I'm like, you know what, this is gonna be temporary. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna find something that I do like, or something that does make me happy. So if you do have a bad time, try to not to focus on, like, half empty, but, like, half full type of thing. Like, let me keep moving. Let me find something else that's better then. You're in control. You're the driver, right? So you got to think of it that way too.
Anyone else?
Good afternoon. My name is Mohammed Kuklani, and I'm an MC student. And my question is for all three of you, is what was your biggest challenge when you were a student, and if you solved it, how?
Money. I think it was always money. Like, they talked about scholarships. I never could get any scholarships. So, like, the constant struggle of money on my back, like, okay, how am I going to pay for my next semester? How am I going to pay for the apartment or the room I'm renting? You know, like, so to me, that was the biggest struggle. The work was always hard. That was constant. like school didn't ever come easy for me, like learning and memorizing things that I don't care about. Like it had to be something I was passionate about, and then I did better in those classes. But yeah, just like the constant, I guess, adulting, you know, like having to balance bills for school, and like you can't be late to class, so like no, I can't go out 5 nights a week even though it's free, you know, like balancing what's realistic, what's obtainable, how am I managing, but the money on like was a constant negative pressure on me.
You know, mine was a little different. I think looking back at it, I kind of struggled at times with realizing that I only had my point of view, and only like 1 or 2 other students in the class had a similar experience, and the majority didn't. And so that was a bit interesting for me, I think, looking back at it, that when there was times where we would talk about different things within criminal justice, because again, I was in that field as a major, there was different points of views in class that I would hear about that I'm like, but have you experienced on the other side? Like, do you know what stop and frisk does? Do you know what these random searches do? Do you know what it means to... Because I would hear things like, oh, if you have nothing to hide, you should just step out of your car. Like, what's wrong with that? You should let the cops search you. And it's like, that's not the point. And I would say things like, have you ever actually been asked to step out of your car? And like, I think those types of differences, point of view, where I would carry certain lived experiences that maybe only 1 or 2 others in a class of 50 or so would carry, and kind of seeing myself as like only one of, and not that many other people look like me or have experiences like me. I think those are some of the things that as I finished, I would look back on and think, I wonder how that experience is like for others as well. So that's something that I think I learned to balance and carry with me now to this day, even in the professional workforce, where when we talk about certain things or certain ideas, I think of it sometimes from a different lens than some of my peers too.
I think that for me, what was the hardest thing as a student was like, and I know I touched on this, was like balancing things. So I had to start making to-do lists. I had to start maybe managing my time a little differently, which I learned fortunately like early in like college, where it was like, okay, I'm only gonna spend like 1 hour studying or this subject, and like another hour there, and then I'm gonna try to like actually go out and like do this and go to this event tonight, because I also wanted to like have an adequate social life. So I feel like the balance thing was the hardest for me, because like, yes, I get you're in school and you're paying money to be in school, but like don't lose sight of like the networking opportunities and like the social aspect of like both college and graduate school, because a lot of like the people that you meet are gonna be maybe people that you run into later, right? They're gonna be your network. And so you don't wanna lose sight of that, I think, because I think that some of us do in the beginning, and that's not always the best thing, because a lot of these people are gonna be people that you're probably gonna wanna ask for help from later, or you're gonna need advice from later. So don't isolate yourself, right? Really try to branch out a little bit, and it's okay to not be in your comfort zone, and I think that's really important as a student.
I think I saw one more question in the back. And
Yeah.
then,
Right here. Yeah.
Usually whenever we're talking about this college stuff, we talk about the struggles and the journey and all that stuff to get to the goal. So we're always lost in the specifics. But like, for me, what if you get there and then you realize it's not what you want, and then you have all the responsibilities like you do with your kids and your family, and it's like you feel like you owe it yourself to keep that job in order to, you know, for regular living, but it's something that's making you miserable every day.
So that's such an interesting question, because when I finished my associate's degrees and transferred to Maryland, I'm like, all right, I got my bachelor's, I'm done with school. I'm never going back to school. Like, I'm done with school. Like, I'm done. And then ended up doing a master's. And I was like, all right, I got my master's now, I'm happy, I'm done with school, I have my master's, I'm okay. And then something kept eating at me, like, no, keep going, like, finish. And I was like, all right, I got my doctorate now, I'm done with school, I'm never going back to school. I'm back in school. I'm at Georgetown. I'm doing a certificate program in diversity and inclusion at Georgetown. It's a 6-month program, so it's not like a full-on 3 or 4 year, but I'm back in school. And I think the way I'll answer your question is, it really depends on who you are as a person. Again, what motivates me may be different than what motivates you or some of the panelists here or other students. Education motivates me, bettering myself motivates me, knowledge motivates me, learning things I don't know about motivates me. And so my wife always tells me, like, why don't you just stop and smell the roses? Like, you did enough. Like, what else are you going back to school for? What else do you want to do? What's your next move? And I'm always constantly thinking about what are my next steps? What else do I want to do to feel fulfilled? And some people, maybe it's just me, but some people I feel like will never feel that fulfillment, like I've achieved it, I made it, I'm done. I don't know, I've never met anyone that has felt that way before, who said, I'm done, this is where I'm gonna be for the rest of my life, I'm not moving. I haven't met that person yet. But that's what motivates me, to continue to challenge myself to do things I thought I would have never been able to do.
You know, don't be afraid of change. Like, if you're miserable doing something, I always tell people, like, don't be afraid to change that. And if it means going back to school to do something that you love, I feel like that's worth it in the long run. It might not seem worth it right then and there, because obviously that takes time, but you being miserable at, like, you know, in a career path that you chose that you thought maybe was the one and then you realize it's not the one. I mean, I'll be honest with you, you don't know how many people in my PT class were accountants before, or were in like a business school. One was an architect. Like, people were such different things, and they realized, like, oh, I hate this, like, I'm changing my career. And they weren't afraid to do it. And I give them so much credit, because I mean, there were older people in my class. Like, we're talking about like some people in their 40s. And like, you so late realize like that, like, you want to make that change. Like, I applaud you for making that change, because you weren't afraid to do so. So I just say, like, don't be afraid to make that change, because it's better to find something that you love than to be miserable for the rest of your life doing something that you don't love in your career.
Plus, the data now shows that most people don't keep their jobs the way that they once did when, like, my grandparents were there. So the data is trending that most people aren't going to be in one career for 30 years anymore. So what you're saying isn't typical, but then also, like, there's certain senses of self-actualization or giving back to community and philanthropy that one aspires to reach when they're older in age. And as the most senior member on this panel, I think I could speak to that cohort of individuals being closer to retirement than they are, which will probably never happen anyway in this area. But a lot of my friends have switched career pathways. Like, they were in business, and then all of a sudden they went to the police academy, you know, and then are now a police officer in Prince George's County. So there's a young person that's in his mid-30s in the class I teach at University of Maryland that got his MBA, and now he's getting his master's degree in physical education to be a PE teacher. So the great thing is that with online coursework and access to degree programs and certifications across many career pathways, you actually have more opportunities to switch and more flexibility to do that. So you may struggle for a year or two in a position that you don't like, but while taking other classes to then flex to a different position after. So you have a lot of flexibility. A lot of it's just really balancing the needs versus the wants, or the pluses of this position versus the deltas or the challenges of another. So this time period is actually pretty cool, with access to online degrees and programs and certification programs. The one thing I learned in college that was the most valuable lesson I could have ever learned, and I didn't even have to pay for it, was networks. And the social media wasn't out, so you have LinkedIn, you have all those networks, but developing and establishing social networks and professional networks is gonna get you so much further than the degree is like a pass, you know, it's like to get you to the front of the line, but like once you're in that line, what are you doing to leverage and foster positive relationships with people to then be able to ask, hey, can I shout at you in your position? If you don't even know she has that job, you don't even know her, then you can't even ask her. So like coming to events like this, connecting with the speakers, finding a mentor that's doing something that you want to do. People looked at me and they were like, oh, you look like you're a leader. My first year teaching, I was like, okay, I'm a PE teacher. I'm teaching PE. I want to teach kids. Oh, no, you're going to be a leader. Da-da-da. I'm like, okay, I want to teach kids PE. Like, thanks. Appreciate it. Let me, teach kids PE. I like sports. We're going to do this thing, and they're going to be happy movers. But people kept coming back to me and saying these things. So don't avoid the messages of people trying to uplift you and people seeing something in you that you don't see in yourself because you're so stuck in your moment. So just be open to the feedback of others and find your mentor and foster positive relationships for that network.
Can I add to update your LinkedIn profiles if you have some, and if you don't, get one? My last 2 jobs I got through LinkedIn. I wasn't even looking for them. So someone from Hopkins emailed me on LinkedIn and said, I see your background, I see you're in the field of admissions, I see you're about to start a doctorate program at the School of Ed. We have an opening at the business school in admissions at Hopkins. Would you mind coming in for an interview? I was like, okay, and then I got it. Georgetown reached out to me when I was finishing my degree at Hopkins and said, hey, we have an opening over here for an executive director role to lead the admissions team at Georgetown. If we see your profile, we would like to know if you will come in for an interview. I was like, okay. Went in, did the interview, got the job. Actually got the job the day I walked across the stage, shook the president's hand, got my diploma, sat down, my phone was buzzing, I checked it, and it was the job offer. That was like the best day ever, except for my kids being born. So update your LinkedIn profiles. Just a quick tip, update your LinkedIn profiles, because your networks are gonna open up more doors than you just applying cold call resumes to different places, just an FYI.
All right, we are going to wrap it up, but let's give a round of applause to our panelists and our moderator, Ms. Blanche.